Hello, hello, hello. I'm Jada Samuel. I am a communications professional and award winning TV host. I'm a children's book author, a professional speaker, and I just so happen to have been Miss South Carolina 2023. But today, I am talking all things pageants, specifically my pageant journey. And you guys know, all good stories start with a backstory. And mine did not start at a very young age. I did not grow up toddlers and tiaras. So when I hear people say, oh my God, she always dreamed of becoming Miss South Carolina, I knew that when she grew up, she wanted to be Miss America. No, you didn't, because I did not know that. But before we get into all of that, this series is starting with my credentials because I'm the type of person who wants to know who we're listening to and why we are listening to them. Over the years, I've competed in 3 separate systems. And if I could go back, I would probably compete in one more. And I'll talk about that in another episode too. But I've thought about doing this in so many different ways, and I've thought about sharing my credentials in chronological order. I've thought about sharing it by system and by experience, but I think sharing it in chronological order makes the most sense for me and also um, gives you the opportunity to see that this was not a linear journey for me, and for most girls, it's probably not. Okay, let's talk about my pageant origin story. So, I feel like it's so stereotypical to say this, but I think my first memories of any pageants were watching Miss America, Miss USA, and Miss Universe on cable TV with my mom. And, well, I hate that young girls won't have that same experience, but those were my first core memories of watching pageants. However, there is one specific person that I would love to blame slash give credit to for pretty much this entire pageant journey. And she knows who she is. um, my cousin Stacy competed at Miss South Carolina, USA when I was a sophomore in high school. And I have to give her flowers and the recognition that she deserves because I specifically remember the feeling of seeing Stacy make the top 15 with one other woman of color that year. And I remember how inspired by her and the other woman of color on stage, who happens to be a great friend of mine now, Megan Pinkney. Um, but being exposed to them and watching them compete with such grace and poise and excellence on that stage was inspiring. And that night is what I like to call my entire pageant origin story. And here's a picture of me that night with Stacy. I was definitely in my Blazer era, Blair Waldorf, Serena Vanderwoodson Blazer era. So please don't judge the photo, but know that competing, first of all, and being someone's inspiration is totally worth it if it can inspire an entire journey. So, let's get into my teen years because I did end up competing as a teenager because of that moment. So, my first high school pageant, wait for it. Please look at the picture. I competed for my first high school pageant as a sophomore, and I was a really young looking sophomore in high school. And the fact that I had on this very conservative dress speaks volumes to me being just young looking and sweet and innocent and just happy to be there and excited. I remember placing like second runner up to Miss Sophomore, and just being thrilled that I decided to go for it. Stacy actually did my hair and makeup for that pageant, so that was exciting. And I just remember it ignited something in me. And so I decided to go back and compete at my high school class pageant again the next year in a borrowed dress. And I ended up becoming Miss Junior at my high school. And the night that I won Miss Junior, I had several people come up to me and say, you should consider doing a larger pageant. And I ended up competing for Miss South Carolina Teen USA, the pageant that I had just gone to see the year before, that fall, as Miss Piedmont Teen USA. It was an at large title. Um, I had the help of my mom, I had the help of Stacy, I had a hair and makeup lesson that was just atrocious looking back on it. My goodness, y'all. I'm actually, please check out the picture here. um, and I remember competing in a 99-cent dress. Like, I got my prom dress and that dress, and it was buy one, get one for 99 cents at a gown store in Spartanburg, South Carolina, that doesn't exist anymore. But when I tell you I was so proud to be wearing my favorite color and knowing that I only spent 99 cents on that gown, I was thrilled because I ended up making the top 15 and just feeling so proud to have done it authentically and to have been up there with all of the nerves and excitement the year after I had watched these two incredible women compete that I know. And so I decided to compete one more time because, if you don't know, once you compete and you make the top anything, or you just compete and you feel like you can make the top anything, you can improve, you can do better, you can become and show up as a different version of yourself. It is really interesting. The bug that you get, it's called the pageant bug, and y'all, it is so real. The pageant bug is real. And so I competed again the spring of my senior year of high school, and I competed in a preliminary pageant. GC Pageants is very well known throughout the North and South Carolina region for having girls win South Carolina USA and North Carolina USA. And so I competed in that prelim, and I ended up getting so many awards. I remember tying for like an interview award and getting the overall fitness award. And it was just so cool to have represented myself at that pageant, but also to be able to go back to Miss South Carolina Teen USA representing Greenville. So I went to Miss South Carolina Teen USA the fall of my freshman year of high school, and I regressed. I did not place in the top 15 or the top 10. And I just remember feeling so down about that and thinking, maybe pageantry isn't for me. And it's not all about placing, but in the mind of a teenager, it was really important to place. I had plenty of family and friends that came to support. And I did receive Miss Congeniality and an award and a scholarship for that, which was incredible. Um, but that was the first time that I did not place. And I knew that if I decided to compete at another pageant, I wanted to do something. I wanted to place or bring it on home. So, of course, I still got the bug. I still got the bug. And so I decided to compete for Miss Black Teen US Ambassador. And MBUSAM is or was an incredible opportunity for Black women across the country who might not have wanted to compete in America or USA or any other system, but just to experience the love and camaraderie and support of competing with other Black women. And it was truly the most incredible pageant experience that I've had in my 10-year journey. I remember listening to Dr. Carrie Turner speak. I remember listening to so many women who were invited as guest speakers and workshop leaders come. And I was thrilled that I was learning so much and walking away with so much that, I didn't even need to absolutely win that title because I was rooting for other women. In fact, I was roommates with the first runner up, who ended up being a good friend of mine and ended up having an extremely successful career in broadcast journalism and on air hosting. And we really bonded because that experience was like none other. So, for anybody who is watching, if you have the opportunity to compete in a system that is focused on empowerment, truly, it is next level. And that's what I will say about that. But I competed and ended up placing second runner up to Miss Black Teen US Ambassador that year as South Carolina. And that was my first time wearing South Carolina on my chest. I will never forget the pride that I had seeing South Carolina across my chest. And I said, you know what? I don't know how or when, but I would love to see South Carolina across my chest again. But that is the conclusion of my teen years. I took a break after competing as a teenager to truly just enjoy the rest of college. I wanted my sophomore, junior, and senior year to be focused on joining a sorority, getting involved, being all in my academics, and just enjoying my time as a teenager and a young adult transitioning into true adulthood. And I did that. So, if anybody is thinking about taking a break, this might be your sign. Do it. It is so worth it to take a break between being a teen and a miss. If you are thinking about it, don't hesitate. Just take the time off and get to know yourself, become more self aware, become more involved, experience life, because those things are going to make you more interesting. They're going to make you more dynamic. They're going to make you more appealing to any judges that you come across. So take the break. I took a break, and I think that maybe if you're considering it, you should too. Okay, friends, so now we have to talk about the miss years. The long journey of the miss years. So I competed, like I said, in South Carolina Teen USA and Miss Black US Ambassador as a teen. And then I knew that I wanted to compete in the America system one day. I told you guys that I had always dreamed of seeing South Carolina across my chest, but I didn't think that it was going to be South Carolina USA because the winners are usually model-esque and taller, and I am 5'3". But I also knew that I did not have a talent in the traditional way that girls in the America system had. I didn't sing, I didn't dance. And so I was a little bit concerned about what I would do, but I had seen Nurse Kelly, and I was like, you know what? If this woman can perform a monologue at Miss America, I could probably do one at Miss South Carolina. On top of all of that, the Miss South Carolina scholarship program offered a scholarship, and not a small scholarship, the largest state scholarship in the nation. Of course, I wanted to compete for Miss South Carolina. I thought it would be an incredible opportunity and it would be really cool. And so I decided to compete at a local. And let me give a disclaimer. I competed in a local the same day that I'd given my first ever keynote at an event. So I went to this local and they gave away 5 titles. And maybe 15 or so girls were competing for those 5 titles. And I walked away with 0. None. Nothing. Not a runner-up, not an award, nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, maybe I just don't need to compete in this system. But I came home that night and I had a message from another director of a local preliminary. And he was like, you go to the University of South Carolina, you should compete at the Miss Columbia and Miss Capital City, which was the area that my college was located, preliminary. And I said, well, I already did the paperwork. I've already prepared my talent. I can switch some things up. And so I go to that preliminary and I win one of the two titles, which was so cool to me. I won one of the two titles and ended up going to Miss South Carolina and competing side by side with the other woman who had won the Miss Columbia title because of the lottery system, which means that you choose your place in the competition. We were the last two picked. And so we literally ended up competing right beside each other. Granted, the woman that I'm talking about is Alexandra Badgett, who ended up winning Miss North Carolina the following year. But guys, I was like, oh my God, two incredible black women out of all of these women in the competition are competing right beside each other. I was a little bit intimidated and I was like, she's not new to this, but I am. So what is going to happen in this competition? So I just went through the week and was like, well, probably ain't going to work out for me. It's not going to work out, but I'm going to have a blast. And so I truly went into that competition so fresh, so wide-eyed, and just had an incredible time. And I made the top 10, which was really exciting because South Carolina is one of the few states that still airs the pageant statewide. And so we were able to have our friends and family support us from all over the state, cheering us on. That was the most incredible feeling, to go to that competition and make the top 10 on my first try. Are you kidding me? I was amazed. I was like, this was so much fun. It was the joy that I needed between that college transition of, you know, what am I going to do after I graduate? College heartbreaks and friendship dramas and all of those things. It was the thing that gave me so much joy and something to look forward to. And so I appreciated it. That first year was just like everything to me. I still, to this day, think that that was my most fun year at Miss South Carolina. Yeah, it was incredible. So I obviously decided to come back and compete again. But I had never competed in the low country area of South Carolina, and I knew that to represent the state, you kind of had to be able to connect with people from all over. So I competed at the Miss Georgetown County, which is near the beach for us, in Miss Five Rivers competition. I was the first woman to hold the Miss Five Rivers title, and I ended up doing well at Miss South Carolina again. I ended up placing in the top 10 once again, but there was something different about placing in the top 10 this time. My talent was much more powerful. I felt more true to myself. I felt like I had a really strong sense of my platform and what I wanted to do if I was given the opportunity to serve the entire state. And I was like, I'm ready for this role and opportunity. And to place in the top 10 and not the top 5 was kind of like, I'm bummed, but I think I could do it. Like, I genuinely believed that I could do the job. So, didn't take much. I competed in another preliminary that fall and ended up becoming Miss Greater Greer. And that was a very interesting year. Now, friends, the thing that was interesting about that third year was that there was a global pandemic. I never had intentions on serving in a local title for 2 years and waiting another year to compete for Miss South Carolina. Like, it just wasn't in the plan for me career-wise. I think I was ready to leave the state. I know that I was. I had every intention of just kind of changing some things up. Well, clearly, none of us got to change anything up because there was a global pandemic. And I waited during that season and remember prepping in a completely different way. I was beyond prepared to do the job of Miss South Carolina, and we will talk all about that in another video, but I was prepared in another way, and I had lots of time to think of all of the details, and that was still a good year for me. I ended up winning the Quality of Life Award, which is to me the most important award in all of pageantry. If I can win an award for my service to the community and how I am truly impacting the quality of life of other people, then I feel honored. And I remember receiving that award that year, and I was like, okay, I received the best award that I could possibly receive. I'm excited to go into this competition and just see what happens. I placed, I didn't place. I received a preliminary award for evening gown. So again, I am ready to go into the finals night. I feel like super. I'm feeling great. I get to finals night and I don't hear my name called into the top 5. And that was the first time that I was just incredibly hurt. I had worked for it. I had served others. I had done all of the things that I thought that a state title holder should do, or someone preparing to be a state title holder should do. But the judges didn't see that. And so I was like, maybe my talent is not going to be something that can win in South Carolina. Maybe, all of this work that I'm doing for my community service initiative is just not being recognized in the same way that, someone who looks great in a gown is. And so I was like, I'm focused on the things that matter, and I am not seeing the results. What's happening? And so I was like, you know what? This doesn't feel joyful. I want to bring the excitement back to pageantry. I want to feel like this is fun again one last time before I really, hang up my heels and call it a day. And so I decided, this is like the fun part. I decided to compete for Miss South Carolina USA prelim. I decided to go back to Golden Corner, the original prelim that I had won as a teenager. So that competition, the preliminary competition, is literally in July. I had just competed for Miss South Carolina and not made the top 5 in June. So I was doing this to just have some fun. And I get there and I win an interview award, I win a swimsuit award. I am, the highest title at the pageant. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, how did this happen? Like, I came here to have fun, and this is what happens when you have fun. When you let go of all the expectations and just have fun, this is what happens. And I needed to remind myself of that. So I go on, and I'm like, South Carolina USA will be my last pageant. Like, I'm just doing it for fun. Like, I'll be done after this. So I go to South Carolina USA. I have a great time. I place in the top 10. It is a great night, and I think I'm done. I'm like, cool. I'm done. I kid you not. I walk off the stage, and within an hour, I am receiving text messages and phone calls to come back to the Miss America and Miss South Carolina Scholarship Organization. The people who sent those text messages, if you're watching this video, that just know that those text messages changed my life. And at the time, I was very annoyed. I was like, I just wanted to have fun. Like, I don't think I want to do this. Well, I ended up deciding that within 24 hours, I was going back to Miss South Carolina. And that was not an easy decision. I mean, I was in the back of the car writing out pros and cons, what I have to gain, what do I need to change, what do I have to lose by going back? I already still live in the state. Going through all of the things that every girl should go through. The pros, the cons, the what do you have to gain, the what do you have to lose conversations. Did that and decided to compete for Miss Columbia. And 7 days later, I won Miss Columbia 2022. So at this point, this is 4 years of competing for the title of Miss South Carolina. And I'm like, this year, regardless of what happens, I want to be the best version of Jada and walk away with the most scholarship money that I could possibly walk away with. Because at this point, I need to pay off some student loans and I need to gain or feel as though I've gained as much as I've put in terms of time, effort, and energy. I would like to have something to show for that energy and effort that I've put in. So I won the local talent award. The first and only time I've ever won a talent award was at the Miss Columbia pageant. And I was on fire then. I was like, you know what? I won the pageant talent award. That means I'm going to the state pageant and I'm going to show people that having a dramatic monologue is equally as important and beneficial to the arts in the way that dancing, singing, playing an instrument can be, because theater is a real art. It's a real art form. And so I was thrilled to go back and show people that, and also to walk away with scholarship awards. And I did. I won the Woman of Achievement Scholarship Award. I won the Miss America Community Service Scholarship, a scholarship for diversity, a preliminary evening gown award. I mean, I was really knocking them down, okay? 2022, I was knocking down the awards and getting the scholarship dollars. And to me, that was what it was about. It was about proving to myself that regardless of this title or this crown, like, I've done the work and I'm gonna have something to walk away with. And I did. I ended up placing second runner up to Miss South Carolina that year, and I felt so fulfilled. If I had been done with pageantry after that day, I would have been fine. I would have been complete. I did not have to come back to prove anything to anybody or myself. I was good. And that is the kind of piece that I wish for all pageant girls when they decide that they are going to be done competing, because there's a time and place for you to learn that it's bigger than you and you've done all that you can do. And if 5 people decide that they don't want you to serve in a certain role, that doesn't mean that you haven't done incredible things, and that you still can do incredible things for your community and for yourself. And that's all I have to say on that. All right, and if you've made it this far, then whoa. Thank you for paying attention and thank you for being interested in my journey, because I do think that there are lots of lessons in it. But funny story, guys. So in 2023, I was giving up my title as Miss Columbia. And again, I told y'all I was good. So I was giving up my title and I had several, and I can name all of these people off. Several women who had been longtime volunteers with the Miss South Carolina organization, several people in the community, elected officials, who were just like, you need to compete for Miss South Carolina again. Didn't they change the age limit? And I'm like, how does everyone know this? Literally within 48 hours of them announcing that the age limit of Miss South Carolina had changed, I had received so many text messages, calls, just little bugs and nudges and hints that I should compete again. And I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, I think that era of my life is done. When I competed last year and knew that I was aging out, I knew that I had to be done. I had to wrap it up. So I had been prepared for that to be the end. I was good. But I always tell people I do not play about nudges from the universe, from God, from none of that. I take those nudges seriously. So I took those nudges seriously and decided to compete at the Miss Greenville County pageant, which was my hometown. There are 5 titles at this competition, and usually anywhere 15, 20 girls that compete for these 5 titles. Friends, after placing second runner-up to Miss South Carolina, I get to this preliminary and place fifth. The lowest title, the almost didn't make it, cut off. The never before heard of name and title, Miss Bridge City. Yeah, I was done. I was like, I don't think that I need to compete for Miss South Carolina. So again, I was just not excited to be coming back with that feeling of just having regressed. I wanted to come back and win. I wanted to come back and do better than I had done in previous years. And I felt like I had done it all the year before. I really did feel complete. And so I was like, the only thing that I want to come back for is the opportunity to win the entire thing. And so I need to make sure that I leave absolutely no stone unturned. Not an earring, not a word during interview or on stage question. Not one thing needs to feel inauthentic. Not one thing needs to feel as though I didn't give it my all. I truly want to go to this competition one last time and do it my way and do it my best way. And so I did. I won the Quality of Life Award again. And to be in the top 5 for quality of life for all of those years in a row and to have won multiple times was incredible. To receive overall evening gown that night of finals, I was like, okay, well, if nothing else, I feel really good about that. And then we come back out for top 5 and it's narrowed down and there are 5 people. And then there are 4 people. And there are 3 people. And I'm like, well, this is where I was before. I do not wish to be standing here as a first runner-up again, knowing that this is my last time, or as a first runner-up ever. I've never been a first runner-up, so I didn't want to be standing there and feel so close, but to not have gotten it. And I was like, you just got to pray for whatever God has for you. And so I'm just like shaking in my boots, sweating, and I hear my name and I am just like, oh my goodness, like this opportunity that I have always known is so much bigger than me is now mine, and it's time for me to use it to do something with. And I was so excited in that moment, and I am going to do a whole separate video about my time as Miss South Carolina, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. But in that moment, I was thrilled. I had won a total of $88,000, including $22,000 from the year that I didn't even win. The $60,000 scholarship that I received that night changed my life, and I am truly honored to have been Miss South Carolina. Truly honored. And it was an incredible journey. Like, all of it has been an incredible journey. So I want to share a couple of life lessons that I learned from my own journey that I hope that you gain and you can use for your own. Okay. Lesson number 1 is to just go for it. If you have a dream, if it has been placed in your heart or in your mind, you keep fighting for it. You never know when preparation is going to meet opportunity. And there are times when preparation doesn't necessarily meet opportunity. I've shared that in my own story, but there are some times when it does. And so you have to be able to go for it. Go for it should be the number 1 lesson that you gain from this video. Number 2, it is not about what you have. It is about who you are. There are many girls who compete in competitions, in pageants, that have the most expensive gowns and headshots and makeup teams, but there are girls that have, 99-cent dresses and show up and they have confidence and they have personality and charisma and something to share, a story to talk about. And so remember that it's not what you have, it is who you are that helps you to become successful in this arena. And so carry that with you always, no matter how many times you change wardrobes, dresses, teams, whatever it is. Remember that it's not about what you have, it's about who you are. The third lesson: do what works for you. You can take a break. You can change systems. I did it. You can say that you're done and post a farewell to pageantry and then still come back. You can do whatever you want. This is your journey, so do what works for you. Now, this is my favorite lesson. Always, always, always have a goal outside of winning. In the words of one of my favorite actors, I'm going to say it again. You got to plan to leave here with something. Okay? This is the time that you plan to leave with scholarships. You plan to nurture friendships and leave with friends, with mentors, with timeless wardrobes that you can rewear for years and years to come, for important events, something, anything. You got to plan to leave with something. And it has to be something outside of the win. And when you make that something exciting and something that you look forward to, that is also when you find success. Okay, friends, my last lesson is probably the most important. Know that your pageant journey is so much bigger than a win. That's a lesson that sometimes comes with maturity, but truly, this whole thing that you're doing, that you're participating in, this pageant world, is a stepping stone. It is not the greatest thing that you will accomplish in your life. It is a method and a means for you to be able to grow, to develop personal growth, professional growth. That is what this is about. There are many opportunities that are going to come from competing, but learning how to best use pageantry to put yourself in position to win in so many other areas of life is so important. So again, know that your pageant journey is so much bigger than a win. Okay, I've talked enough, and if you are still here listening, I just want to say thank you. I'm glad that you tuned in. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that this was valuable for you, and I hope that you go ahead and hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments what helped you, what life lesson you are going to take with you, or let me know what you want to hear in any other episode of Pageant Girl Real World. Thanks for tuning in, and again, don't forget to subscribe.